Howdy folks, Rob, MaximumRD here. I'm doing a tag response. I wasn't actually tagged, but I saw the video and I want to do a video response to it. So there. This tag is from Dog in My Lens, and she is talking about her favorite game of all time, and so I'm responding to that to give my favorite game of all time. And I would like to begin by saying I normally really try to avoid, labeling anything as my favorite of all time, whether it be a movie, whatever, a piece of artwork, a show, anything, a song. I've always had trouble with that because, to say, okay, this is my favorite of all time. That's it, And some people can do that easily. I mean, for sure, for some people, it's very easy to say, this is my favorite of all time, period. I always have trouble with that one because to me, I look at it more like, here are my, maybe my top 10 or my top 20 or something like that. But I always have trouble saying my absolute favorite. But if I were to be pressed on the issue, and I guess I really gave it some thought. I didn't do that before. But, well, it kind of goes in line with my favorite genre of all time, and I've mentioned this before, some of you already know, which is survival horror. I love survival horror games. I don't think there's enough of them. I want to see better ones all the time. So by that, you may be already knowing my answer. And I have talked about this before, but my memory is so poor. I don't know which forum or video or site I mentioned it on. So you might not be surprised when I tell you my favorite game, if I have to choose one, of all time would be Resident Evil. Yeah. Capcom's Resident Evil on the original PlayStation. I didn't have a Sega Saturn at the time, so I couldn't give you a comparison. But I believe it was the first version. It wasn't the director's cut. I'm not sure if it had the rumble. No, it definitely had the rumble, now that I think about it. But anyways, all I know is, for me, that is the game that made it so that today I can honestly say my favorite genre of all time is survival horror games, and that is the reason why. Up until that time, so many games, when I was thinking this through, I thought, man, what memories stuck with me? What games just, when I think about the past, what games just grabbed me and pulled me in? And I thought of ones like, of course, the original 8-bit Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past on Super Nintendo, no question, amazing. The original Metroid, the very first Metroid, which I completed in one sitting. I was just so hooked into that game. But, that's all great, and this is the story I may have related to in the past, but I've always liked horror movies, monster, gothic, all that type of eerie atmosphere, creepy type of things. And I got a hold of this Resident Evil game, and I put it in my PlayStation, and I had a little 14-inch Commodore monitor from my Amiga computer, which had a composite input, amazing color reproduction, great looking little monitor. And it was like a 14-inch monitor, so I was sitting about this close to it while I was playing the game. That's fine. And I was playing in the dark. I had my stereo headphones plugged into the monitor, cranked up. I thought, okay, no problem, this is cool. And obviously, right from that opening intro of Resident Evil, you're like, wow, this looks really cool. And then suddenly you're in the mansion there with your companions, and who, quickly decide to separate. And it reminded me of those old mansion ghost story type movies. And then, of course, once you stumble upon your first zombie, shades of Romero and Night of the Living Dead. And, I played a few 3D games up to that point, of course, but wow. And, okay, I know it's not a fully realized 3D game. You have those static rendered backgrounds and stuff, but that really did create a lot of excellent detail and gave the whole game a very cinematic and eerie feeling to it, quality. Backgrounds, it made it look like a real mansion, and you really felt like you were in there. And I just want to say, I know a lot of people, their big issue with that game and others in the series and other types of games, even by other companies, is the so-called hated tank control movements. Where you push forward, you have to, instead of just pushing in the direction you want to go, like let's say Super Mario 64 or something like that, you push left and right to face the direction, then you push forward to, it's not everyone's cup of tea, that type of control. And I will say, when I first played the game, I wasn't used to that type of control either, and it really threw me off at first. And like many, I did not like it. I was used to just pointing in the direction I want to go and go. It seems simple enough, right? But I like the atmosphere and the feel and the whole story of the game so much that I just kept at it and I kept at it, and by the time, next thing I knew, those controls became second nature to me. Like I would start up one of those games, jump right in, and I'm flying around that game, running around, turning corners, whatever, without a second thought. I'm controlling it just as well as a game where you just point in the direction you want to go. And I did that purposely. I wanted to familiarize myself with the control scheme. I wanted to get used to it because I thought if there was any other games like this, I want to be able to play them. So I made myself get used to it. I'm not saying like it. I'm just saying get used to it, so to the point where it was no longer an issue. And I think personally, and the numbers of how well the game sold might indicate that, that people who took the time to do that, who really persevered and kept at it and learned those controls and beat the game, and then went back and found extra costumes and more features in the game and completed the game 2-3 times, those people, they were rewarded by learning how to do those kind of controls. Sometimes people, and including myself, I mean, I may have done it for a lesser game or a genre I wasn't interested in, where they'll play something like that 10-15 minutes and go, this is nuts, this is crazy, I don't want to bother with this anymore. What was it with these crap controls, man? What were they thinking? And I know that's what a lot of people were like, but I couldn't give up on it, and I'm glad I didn't. Because anyways, when I reached that point where, and this is the story I'm sure I've related before, where sitting this close to the monitor in a dark room, not these headphones, but headphones on, full blast, and just, running down that corridor, which one I'm talking about, that damn corridor, hallway. And run down there, do some stuff, run back, go do some other stuff, come back, whatever. I've been down this hallway before, walking down that hallway, boom, through the window, skinless dogs jump through the window. Never to this day, any game, even following Resident Evil games, and maybe it's because up to that point I'd never experienced that, the old jump scare. They use it a lot in movies. Some of you say it's a very cheap way to get scares. Whatever. That was the first time ever that a video game made me jump. And of course, being that close to the screen, sitting in darkness with the volume cranked up and that controller vibrating, when those dogs jumped through the window in that hallway, my controller fiercely, violently vibrated, and I heard the sound of the glass crashing. My mind exploded, okay? I literally jumped out of my chair. I hit the ceiling, and I swear to you, my heart skipped a beat. I had to put the controller down, and I was kind of like, what the hell just happened here? And then after I composed myself and realized that energy came over me, that excitement came over me, and I was like, that was friggin' awesome. And I just continued playing and eventually beat the game. There were a few more scares, but I think after that I was kind of creeping through the game, just taking it very slow and very tactical. But ever since that time, I've never experienced anything like that, and it's set in stone the type of game that I like the most. So I think it's fair enough that I give Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1 my favorite game of all time. Alright, so that's it. There's your story. I hope you liked it. Rob, MaximumRD out.